Assalamu alaikum. I am Noorani Qaida and this is Shaykhi Academy. In today's episode, inshallah, we will discuss the letter Sad. So, stay tuned.
Shaykhi Academy.
So, this is just to remind you that we are explaining from Al-Minhaj book, the official book of Shaykhi Academy. Okay, so in the last episodes, we discussed until letter Sheen, from letter Alif to letter Sheen. Okay, so today's discussion, inshallah, will be about the letter Sad. Sad. Okay, so as always, our discussion includes these 4 points. What is the point of articulation of this letter and how we pronounce this letter? And we said a difference between the point of articulation and how we pronounce. The point of articulation, the organ that are used to pronounce this letter, while how to pronounce it, how we use the organ to pronounce this letter. So this is the first point we discuss. The second point is that this letter, whether it's a heavy or a light letter, okay. The third point, what is the counterpart of this letter in English? And the last and the fourth point is, what are the common mistakes when pronounce this letter, especially among non-native Arabic speakers? Okay, so this is the 4 main points of our discussion. So let's now move to the first point. So remember now our golden rule to know the point of articulation of any letter. To know the point of articulation of any letter, we have to put it in the state of a sukun, okay, and put hamza with fatha before it, and then pronounce this letter to know what is the point of articulation of this letter. So as sa, si, so, as. So what is the point of articulation of this letter? Actually, the point of articulation of this letter is the tongue, okay? And we divided the tongue from in the last episodes. Here is the mouth, okay, and here is the tongue. We divide the tongue always into 3 types. The first part, which is called the top of the tongue, and the last part, which is called the back of the tongue, and what's the middle in between is called the middle of the tongue. So this is the top part, and this is the back part, and this is the middle part. Okay, from which part we pronounce letter Sad? We said the first part, okay, the first part in the tip of the tongue, which is this part, the first part is called the tip of the tongue. This is the first part of the top of the tongue. It's called the tip of the tongue. So the tip of the tongue touches the edge of this. What this called? This called lower front incisors. Lower front incisors. So the tip of the tongue touches the edge of the lower front incisors. This part. The tip of the tongue touches the edge of lower front incisors. And then the sound passes, okay, passes between the upper and lower front incisors. Else. So the tip of the tongue touches the edge of lower front incisors, and then the air passes between upper and lower front incisors. Okay, if you remember this description, this point of articulation, and this way of pronouncing this letter, we said the same and exactly when we explained letter Sin, okay, and letter Zay or Zay before it, okay. So when explained letter Sin and Zay, we said the same point of articulation and the same way of pronouncing these 2 letters, and we said the difference we said that the difference is the vibration of the vocal cords, or what's called in English the voice and the voiceless, because as the same point of articulation and the same way of pronouncing. As. So when we pronounce �ز𝐬, there is a vibration of the vocal cords. If you touch this area, you feel the vibration of the vocal cords. As. But if you feel this part when you pronounce letter sin, you will don't feel the vibration of the vocal cords. As. Okay. And also /صاد has the same point of articulation of �ز𝐬 and /sin. But /صاد also there is no vibration of the vocal cords, so it looks like /sin. So there is no vibration of the vocal cords. As, okay, as. So if there is no vibration of the vocal cords, so what is the difference then between /sin and /صاد? To understand this point, we have to ask the next question, which is whether /صاد is a heavy or light letter, which means the back of the tongue will be raised or not. If it's raised, it will be heavy. If it's not raised, it will be light. So the back of the tongue in this case will be raised, which means that this letter is a heavy letter, and this is actually the difference between letter sin and letter /صاد. This is the difference between letter sin and letter /صاد. This one is a light letter, which means the back of the tongue is not raised, and this one is a heavy letter, which means the back of the tongue is raised. As there is no raising of the back of the tongue, as else there is a raising of the back of the tongue. So if we put now again letter, okay, letter �ز𝐬 or �ز𝐬 as a kind of revising this letter with the last letters. Okay, �ز𝐬 or �ز𝐬, and sin, this is a comma, okay? This is not a letter. And /صاد. Okay, what is the difference between �ز𝐬 and sin? Okay, these three letters, okay, has the same point of articulation and the same way of pronouncing. The point of articulation is the tongue, and the same way of pronouncing, which is the tip of the tongue touches the edge of front lower incisors. Okay, or front two lower incisors. These three letters has the same point of articulation and the way of pronouncing. So what is the difference between �ز𝐬 and sin? As sin, there is no vibration of the vocal cords. As �ز𝐬, there is a vibration of the vocal cords. So there is a vibration, yes. There's a vibration for a sin, no. As vibration, as there is no vibration. Okay, so the second question, what is the difference between a sin and a /صاد? As, because a sin and a /صاد, both of them doesn't have a vibration of the vocal cords. So we have to have another difference, which is the heaviness and lightness. The sin is a light letter and a /صاد is a heavy letter. What does that mean? It means that a sin, the back of the tongue is not raised, as the back of the tongue, okay, and else the back of the tongue will be raised. Okay, so you see now this this group and what is the difference between each one. Okay, so to understand this in deeper detail, you have to watch first the episode of letter �ز𝐬 or �ز𝐬 and the episode of letter sin, and then to go back again to the letter /صاد. Okay, so this is the difference between these similar sounds because it has the same point of articulation and the same way of pronouncing them. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, الصابرين والصادقين والقانتين والمنفقين والمستغفرين بالأسحار. الصابرين 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 والصادقين والصادقين والقانتين والمنفقين والمستغفرين بالأسحار. Okay, so before moving to the next point, this letter is a heavy letter, okay, which means the back of the tongue should be raised. This is the mouth, this is the tongue, the back of the tongue should be raised. Okay, so this is how this letter will be heavy. Why I said that? Because we always say about when we explain any heavy letter, we note to a common mistake, which is some students and some people might think that the heaviness of the letters of any letter is done by circling the lips or making the sound of a dhamma. Else, no. Again, there is no relationship between circling the lips and heaviness. Okay, heaviness has nothing to do with circling the lips. Okay, so we will make this letter heavy, okay, but without circling the lips. So someone might ask how? By raising the back of the tongue. Okay, so this is one of the common mistakes, but we don't delay to the fourth question, but we said it when explaining whether this letter is heavy or light, because it's something people think that it's related to heaviness, but it's not. It's not related to heaviness. Why it's not related to heaviness? Because heaviness is done by raising the back of the tongue. Okay, so else, don't say else, no, else. You see the shape of the lips? Nothing changed. Else. The difference is the back of the tongue. The back of the tongue is raised. Okay. Okay, so let's now move to the next question, which is what is the counterpart of letter Sod in English? Actually, there is no counterpart of letter Sod in English. Okay, there is a counterpart of just letter Sin, which is letter S, but because Sod is a heavy letter, no counterpart of letter Sod in English. So when you know that this letter is not found in English, you have to know that you will need to exert more efforts to pronounce it. So try to exert more efforts by making the back of the tongue raising and try to pronounce more and more. الصابرين 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 والصادقين والقانتين والمنفقين والمستغفرين بالأسحار. قل صدق الله. قل صدق الله, not قل صدق الله. Don't round your lips. قل صدق الله. Okay, so let's now move to the next question and the last question, which is what are the common mistakes when pronounced letter Sod? One of the common mistakes is pronouncing letter Sod light, which means as letter Sin, like the word al-masir. Okay, we should say al-masir, al-masir. Okay, not al-masir, not al-masir. وإليه المصير, وإليه المصير. Okay, also the common mistakes that's related to heaviness and lightness that we said, which is making the circle in the lips when pronounced letter Sod, like the word as-salihina. Okay, as-salihina, as-salihina. Some students and some people say as-salihina and circle in the lips. They imagine that the heavy letter means circle the lips, and this is wrong. There is no relationship between circle the lips and the heaviness. Heaviness is done by raising the back of the tongue. Okay, so don't say as-salihina, but say as-salihina. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, وَأَنكِحُوا الْأَيَامَ مِنْكُمْ وَالصَّالِحِينَ مِنْ عِبَادِكُمْ وَإِمَائِكُمْ. Again, وأنكحوا الأيام منكم والصالحين من عبادكم وإمائكم. Again, don't say والصالحين. Don't circle the lips when pronounce any heavy letter. Okay? Promise me, please. Okay. So I think this is the end of our discussion today. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So in the next episode, inshallah, we will discuss the shape mate, okay, of letter Sad, which is letter Dad. However, they are shape mates. There is no relationship between the sound of each other. This is in the part 15, inshallah, of the Arabic alphabet letters. If you have any question about the pronunciation of letter Sad, face any difficulty, or if you was facing any difficulty but now it's solved, alhamdulillah, after this episode, just let me know in the comment section. So inshallah, see you in the next episode, inshallah. Stay tuned. Now we came to the end of this episode. So if you want to follow up the next episodes, consider subscribing. Also, if you want a qualified Quran tutor, whether for yourself or your kids, we are providing online Quran classes. Don't forget to check out our app. See you inshallah in the next episode. Assalamu alaikum.
𝐂𝐩𝐲𝐬𝐬 Academy. Learn and enjoy.